Hey guys, Michelle Stevens here. Sorry for the glow in the background. It's dark here in Wyoming. I'm on top of our mountain in Wyoming. And I told you last week that I would come on and I would share part 2 of reversing autism. And so I wanted to keep my word and take care of that. So having said that, I'm not real sure even where to get started. I think the last time I was on here, I shared with you the story of my son. I'm not using his real name. I'm using the name John. And I shared with you that he is having a successful experience in college and has great friends and is having a completely typical life, if you will. It doesn't have any symptoms. And I wanted to talk a little bit about not just the things, you know, I talked to you about how we had some interventions, some educational interventions, some nutritional interventions, doing kinesiology, and then of course my personal belief system that we get what we picture, and that I just didn't allow anyone to curse his life with their words and to label him and to use those labels. I had some really interesting responses from people sharing their stories afterwards, private messaging me, and I'm really grateful that you shared with me that brought some value to you. So thanks so much for sharing your stories, and please continue to do so. I know that not everybody's going to get the result we got. Not everyone's child is identified as young as mine was. Not everyone has a master's degree in special education. Not everybody has the money to get supplements. Not everybody can, even if they did exactly all the same things, they wouldn't necessarily get the same results. It's my opinion that there's a lot of different things that cause autism. I don't think it's any one thing. I know there's a lot of people who are adamant that vaccinations are what caused it in their child or someone they know, and I don't disagree with them on that. It's not what caused it in my son because he was not vaccinated. However, I think it's would behoove us to ask the question, if my being vaccinated and my husband being vaccinated could have possibly have created a scenario that contributed. I just don't know. I mean, our DNA is affected by everything, right? So I don't have the answer to that, but it's a working theory that I have personally. So anyway, having said that, I wanted to share with you some of the things intervention-wise that were really helpful. First of all, my son had a real difficulty learning like his ABCs. So learning to read was a challenge. I know the light is really glowing in the background and I'm not quite sure how to manage that. So maybe this will be better. I'll try this and see if this is a little bit better for you guys. Because it's annoying when you have something in your face, right? If it'll sit up here, I'll just have to hold it. Anyway, ABCs. So if he were going to look at a word, and I gave this example last time, like the word add, he would sing the ABC song, and as he got to the letter, he would then say the letter and then start the ABC song all over again until he got to the next letter. And so it would be like A, B, C, D, D. And then he would go A, B, C, D, and he would just start the whole song until he got to the next letter. He recognized it. So we worked a lot with flashcards. And what I found is that my son, his gift, you know how a lot of people say that children with Asperger's sometimes, or any kind of autism, oftentimes have like some kind of a gift, right? They have an area in which they do extremely well. And my brother's in the background saying savant, but I don't want to assume that everybody knows what a savant is, or, you know, not all savants are like the Rain Man, okay? So anyway, my son's gift is he's an artist, and he, at the age of 2.5, drew a picture of our backyard. It was an aerial perspective, it was to scale, and it was 3-dimensional. And at first when he showed it to me, his speech skills were not that great. And I knew better than to say, what is that, right? If anybody who's a teacher knows, you don't say, what is that? You say, tell me about your picture. Because the child assumes that that they are such a great artist that you know what it is. And you don't want to hurt their feelings or their confidence by saying you don't know what it is. So I said, you know, I'm telling him to tell me about the picture, but his speech skills are not there, and he really couldn't convey what he was drawing. So having said that, I see a lot of old high school friends. Hi, guys. I showed it to my husband, and my husband, who is very artistic as well, looked at it and he goes, well, Michelle, this is obviously the backyard. And I'm like, in whose world is this the backyard? And he goes, well, it's an aerial view. It's a bird's eye view. And as soon as he said that, I saw it and I went, wow, how does a 2.5-year-old draw something that perfectly? Like, he had the tree and there was like this little brook that ran through the backyard. He had, you know, where the edge of the, what do I want to call it? Like where the water ran through, you know, there's the top of the soil, and then there was a space where it was just dirt, and then the water was like down here. He's like showing all of these details. Anyway, it was pretty incredible. We still have the picture. And I saw that he was visual. I also was really blessed. It's amazing that when you're praying for answers, and it's, you know, letting God know that you're open to receiving wisdom, that the wisdom is like literally right there. So these books came across my path, and something inside of me intuitively told me that these books were important. One of them was called The Gift of Dyslexia. And I always recommend this book to anybody whose child has dyslexia, any child with autism, any adult for that matter. The Gift of Dyslexia is this really great book, and it explains how, I'm going to use a visual for you guys. So let's say this represents the letter L, okay? It's a little ceramic boot that my grandson painted for me for Christmas. But let's say this is the letter L, and I guess for you guys it would be this way, right? And but a child with dyslexia, you and I see a flat thing on the piece of paper, right? But a dyslexic child sees the L this way, and this way, and this way, and this way, and what they see at 3D. So all of these, if you could take a snapshot of, you know, if you had a camera that was going like, you know, a photographer with a model, and they were taking 100 pictures a minute, every one of those snapshots would represent the letter L. And that's how they see everything. A typical 6-month-old child laying in their crib looks out the crib, and let's say they're looking at the doorway and the kitty cat walks by. And when they see the whole cat in their mind, a typical 6-month-old will say, if they had language, they would say, oh, there's the kitty. A typical 6-month-old, when the cat is past the door, let's say this is the doorway and the cat's walking across, let's say that only the butt and the tail can be seen. A typical 6-month-old no longer sees a cat and thinks it's a cat. Now they see a butt and a tail and they think it's a completely different thing. Hey, Sandy. Hi, Chip. I saw Stephanie. I think I saw Leslie Bell. Hi, guys. So, and I know Jeffrey Santucci, you were on there too. Thanks so much, Jeffrey. So that's what a typical 6-month-old sees. Now, a dyslexic 6-month-old They see the tail and the butt. Hey, Cindy. And they see the whole cat. Cool, right? That's a gift. A typical 6-month-old, if I'm playing with them and I have a little toy and I stick the toy under a blanket and they can't see the toy anymore, the typical 6-month-old goes, oh, it's gone. All gone. A dyslexic 6-month-old, you put the toy under the blanket, that 6-month-old will pull the blanket off because in their mind's eye, they can still see the toy. So that was my son, John. He was able to do that. It was pretty phenomenal. And that book helped me to understand it. So when I understood that when he was looking at the letters, can you imagine the letters B, P, and D? To a dyslexic person, that's all the same letter. And there is no explanation in their mind as to when you decide which letter it is. So it's super confusing. And depending on the font, you could confuse some other letters as well, like V and Y. Yeah, Y has a tail, but they still look a lot alike, right? So font is very important. Understanding that they see everything three-dimensional is very important. And although phonics is important for everybody to learn, phonics is not how a dyslexic child learns to read, in my experience. Somebody out there is going to say, that's not true, I'm dyslexic and I learned phonics. That's great. But I'm just telling you, typically, dyslexic people learn to read by learning the shape of a word. So imagine that we're using a sans serif font, and so it doesn't have any squiggly cues. It's all, circles and straight lines, and we see the word apple. If you wrote the word apple out and then drew, and I'll do it right now. I don't know if you'll be able to see it because I have a pink piece of paper, but I'm going to do this so that you can maybe see what I'm talking about. There are some reading programs that actually teach children this way, which is super great. And so can you guys see that? It's probably backwards to you. Now, I'm going to show you how this works. So there's the shape. That's how my son learned to read words. He had to memorize them. Everything was a sight word. And when we did sounds, we had to associate the letters with things, and I let him pick. So we went through each letter, and I would show him an A, and this was when he was old enough to talk. So this is when he's in like kindergarten, first grade. And I would say, okay, John, when you see the shape of this letter, what does it remind you of? And then he would tell me, and that would become what it was. So the best example was S. He said, sounds and looks like a snake. When he sees S, he thinks snake. So we drew the letter S three-dimensional, well, as three-dimensional as you can on a two-dimensional surface, right? And so I'm going to show you what so that became S. And of course, when he's writing, he's not going to draw a picture of a snake, but he was just learning the shape and how it associated with the sound. So these are some of the things that we did. We used, there is a book, and you guys have looked and looked and looked for it to be able to refer it to other people. There's this amazing woman. She was a member of my church, and I was thinking today I need to call and see. I haven't been anywhere near where she lives in probably 20 years, so I'm not even sure if she's alive, but I'm sure her children are. Her name is Ann Weston, and she's a highly intelligent woman. And she developed her own reading system, and you can start teaching children to read when they're 6 months old. And so that's what I was doing. And my son John was able to learn to read the words that I used her system on. And basically it was taking simple words like the word jump, and you see it, you say it, you color it, you do things with it. There was a little activity where you made a little candle stick out of paper, and then we did Jack jump over the candlestick, and we did that together with that little nursery rhyme. And then you put it up somewhere like your refrigerator, and about 2 or 3 times a day or more, you go over to the word on the refrigerator and you talk about it and you do the activity. And so they're getting all these different ways of processing that information. And we did that with the word mother, and I wore this tag that said mother. So at 6 months old, through recognition, he could, there were about 6 words when we, that we had built up to. I could lay those flashcards on the floor across the room, and he could crawl over and pick out the word that I told him to bring to me. So he was intelligent, still is. He was very intelligent, but typical systems of teaching alphabet and reading did not work with him. So I had to continue these same strategies that I'm describing to you, and they worked really well for him. And then he's been allowed, even now that he's an adult, he still has difficulty with spelling. He uses spell check on the computer, and then he runs everything by one of his sisters and myself to edit, because sometimes spell check doesn't catch all the mistakes, right? Or grammatically his sentence won't make sense, and we'll talk him through. So it takes him probably 5 to 10 times longer to do all of his homework when it comes to writing essays and things of that nature. When he's allowed to just speak it and record it, or speak it to us and we type it, his mind's very quick, and he's a brilliant writer. He puts together great stories. He says things well, but when he writes them down, it doesn't translate well. So that's really the only challenge that he has educationally now, and he's found ways to overcome and compensate. So I hope that this is helpful. It's not obviously a cure, but it's a strategy that was very helpful. I want to encourage any parents or anybody that's dealing with children with autism. It's your responsibility, in my opinion, to figure out how they best learn, and then develop strategies with their help to teach them the way that they learn. There is not a classroom of students that I ever had that I expected them to figure out how I teach. I always told them their job was to teach me how they learn and to give me feedback. And my job was to work with them to give them the information they required in a way that they could absorb and process and utilize. So with that, I want to thank you guys for your time and attention. I'm going to keep coming on every week and sharing various strategies that I've used, not just with my son, but professionally in my classrooms. And hopefully it will add some value to your lives. I appreciate your time, like I said, so much. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. Or if you have strategies that have worked for you, please don't hesitate to share them. Thank you so much. God bless. And we'll see you next week. Okay, 4th time must be the charm, right? Okay, this time it's going to work. Alicia Amayo, I am so sorry, girlfriend. Let me find you and add you in here. I cannot believe I have been sitting here ready for 40 minutes, making sure everything was good and ready to go. and every crazy thing that could happen and mess up happened. So girlfriend, I'm not going to put it in the little holder, and I'm not going to try and use my computer because, wow, okay, it's all right. This is life. Life happens. So just, I'm demonstrating how we breathe when life gets a little crazy and you're trying to do something and it's not wanting to work for you. You guys, Michelle Stevens here. I'm so excited to be with you guys tonight. I have been preparing for 2 days for this because I'm super pumped. I feel so privileged that Alicia and Matt trusted me to get on here and share with you guys about CBD and what it is. And who can benefit and what's so great? What's all the fuss about CBD? I'm going to grab my notes because they fell on the floor. And so I'm just going to hold this with my hand, and we're just going to do this the old-fashioned way like we used to before we had all this high-tech stuff, equipment, right? So hey, Ann. Hey, Melissa. Thanks for getting on, you guys. I promise you now we're going to have it working and going on. I did see a couple of people try to get on a minute ago that didn't see that I managed to get back. So I'm going to send a little quick invite out to my good friend Grant Roth so that he can see we're still here. All right. So what is CBD? You guys, it's everywhere. I went down and got gas today. Hey, Deborah. And at our gas station at the end of our island, out in the middle of nowhere, CBD. Now I'm going to tell you something. It's not the same quality, but they have it everywhere I go. Hey, Leslie. Hey, Diana. So glad you guys jumped on. So CBD, it stands for cannabidiols or cannabinoids. It's one of those things I had to practice saying. And it's actually something that occurs naturally in cannabis plants. Hey, you guys, thanks for jumping on. So it's a naturally occurring compound. And what's so cool about this compound is that it helps to modulate and helps with communication and balance in our bodies. So I'm super excited to share with you because it is everywhere you go, and it's not all the same, you guys. It's not all alike. I tried 5 different CBD products before I found the one that actually worked. And you know what I found was different about it? Is there were only 2 ingredients on the label. Well, sometimes 3, depending on if I used one that was flavored. And it tasted good. Those other 5 tasted horrible. They didn't work. It was like licking an ashtray. And this one tastes good, and it works. It really, really works. So I just want you to know this is not something pharmaceutical. This is not something chemical or man-made. This actually comes from a plant. But a lot of you are probably thinking what I used to think. And what I used to think was that hemp and marijuana were the same thing. In fact, when I was doing some research for this presentation tonight, there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. Can you believe that the internet has false information on it? Yeah, right? So I was just so amazed that it was 2 different things. Like I thought marijuana was the bud and that hemp was the stalk. Made sense to me. Did any of you guys think that? So I found out that cannabis is like citrus. Lemons and oranges are both citrus, but they're different fruits. Well, hemp and marijuana are both cannabis, but they're different plants. And they have different amounts of what we call THC. So marijuana has a lot more THC, and it's that psychoactive component that gives you a feeling of being high. And hemp has very low amounts, most hemp. There are some hybrids that have more. But legal hemp has to be 0.3% or less by weight of THC. And the product I'm sharing with you tonight actually has 0.03%. So there's just enough in there to actually help open the receptor sites in our bodies to be able to receive and utilize CBD. And that brings me to my next point. And this is super exciting. This is also something that I learned that I didn't know before. And that is that we are hardwired by God. We were created right out of the womb with an endocannabinoid system. Say that 3 times fast. We'll just call it the ECS. So that ECS is a hardwiring system that goes from our brains down to our feet and out our arms. And it's this extension, like when you look at the vascular system of our body, there is this endocannabinoid system, and it's been laying dormant in most of our bodies for most of our lives. It occurs, CBDs, 2 of them at least that we know of, occur naturally in mother's breast milk. So we know that the human body can make certain ones of the CBDs, but when you have the plant and you utilize that plant and you get the full spectrum hemp CBD, and you've got that tiny amount of THC, you're getting a full entourage effect. And what it does is it works, well, let me tell you, this will tell you more. There is more naturally occurring CBD, and your body has more CBD receptors than it has serotonin and dopamine receptors combined. Okay, so did you know that? Did you know that by taking CBD, you can activate this system in your body? And what it does is it's the communication system for all your other systems. You've got a respiratory system, right? You've got a vascular system. You have all these different systems in 5th grade science. Didn't they teach us there were 11? Well, guess what? They didn't know about it then, but they do now, that we have an endocannabinoid system as well. And when we take a high quality CBD product, we activate that system, and it allows for communication, modulation, and balance in our bodies. So that is all super cool stuff. Who can benefit, do you think, from CBD then? If every single one of us as human beings is hardwired with receptor sites in our bodies, who do you think can benefit from it? Well, I'm going to tell you something else you may not have known. Everything with a spine has an endocannabinoid system. Cats, dogs, horses, yeah, your favorite furry friends, they can benefit too. So anybody with a spine, anything with a spine can benefit from CBDs. Pretty cool, huh? All right. What else did I want to tell you about? Oh, our products. Okay, so I don't want to leave anything out because they're all really amazing. We have a 500 milligram and a 750 milligram CBD product, and our CBD comes in 3 flavors: natural, peppermint, and cinnamon. The cinnamon is like chewing big red gum or eating a red hot candy. The peppermint is kind of like a peppermint gum or peppermint toothpaste. And then the natural is just a very mild natural plant kind of flavor. And so I want you guys to know that these, we put it under our tongue. These are oils, right? So they're sublingual, and we put them under our tongue, and the absorption rate is very high. If you will hold it there for 60 seconds to 90 seconds, you're going to get a 98% to a 99.8% absorption rate, and it's fat soluble, so it's going to store in your fat, and it's going to hang out there for when you need it later. Super cool. Water soluble is going to just flush right through. So ours is not broken down chemically. We have not done any of those things. We have this amazing extraction process using CO2, and so it's totally pure and clean and organic. Check your bottles at home. If they aren't My Daily Choice HempWorks, then you need to look and see, does it contain water or glycerin or some kind of vegetable oil or MCT oils? Because ours is thinned out. CBD is a thick paste, but we thin ours out with hemp oil. It makes sense, right? It costs a lot more, but to do that on the manufacturing side, but let me tell you something, it's way better for you and it makes it work better in your body. Not only that, but that's all you're gonna find in ours is 3 things if you get cinnamon or peppermint, or 2 things. I had bottles that had like 6 to 12 different products in there, and CBD being at the bottom of the list. And so you get these adulterated products that have very little CBD in them, and they include things like acetone and ethanol. Acetone is what I remove nail polish with, or use it when you're dealing with paint or something, right? And ethanol, isn't that in gas? I mean, those aren't things you want to put under your tongue. So check labels, okay, you guys? Super important. So we have those oils, we have topical products. I love our pain relief product called Relief. And we have skincare products. I'm huge on skincare, and I love the Revive and the Renew, so I highly recommend them. And we have bath bombs. I used one this morning. Can you imagine getting in your bathtub and soaking in CBD? Hello? Yeah, you totally want to do that. And we have the pet products. We have a 250 milligram pet product oil, and we have pet treats with CBD. Yay. And don't forget the coffee that has the CBD hemp product, and the keto creamer. Okay, so first thing in the morning, so you can feel calm and relaxed getting ready for your day. Does it give you energy? Absolutely, but it's not going to make you jittery. And not only that, it also has some chaga mushroom in it, so Google that stuff. That's pretty important. The other thing I'd like to encourage you to Google is I want you to Google any health condition that you have concerns about, because I'm not going to make any kind of claims here about what it's going to do for you, but I want you to think, if my body, if my immune system and my respiratory system and my nervous system and my vascular system, if they're not all communicating with each other very well because the communication system has been lying dormant and isn't active completely because my body has to produce some of these CBDs, I'm not getting them in my diet, how well do you think that system is working? Do you think that you might benefit from reactivating that system? What do you think it would do for your sleep? What do you think it would do for your sense of well-being? Well, let me tell you something, guys. I was secretly microdosing a CBD oil that was kind of high in THC, and that's why I had to microdose. I didn't know how to not get the high feeling, but have the calm feeling. I didn't want to go on pharmaceutical things and have to live with all the side effects and stuff, and that was working for me, but I could only take a tiny dose because I didn't like to feel like kind of funny in my head until I found this. You guys, I love it. I don't have to worry about any of that. I can take it, my kids can take it, a baby can take it. I had a friend who had a baby she was teething, and we just rubbed that on her gums and she would just quit crying within 3 minutes or less. It was awesome. Okay, and then you want to know why choose HempWorks. Well, I'm going to tell you why really quick. I don't have much time. Is this company, you guys, is the #1 buyer and seller of cannabis in the world, and we have 16% of the market share of CBD so far in the US. This industry is predicted to be a $22 billion industry by 2022. And our company has gotten that first pre-wave. They've gotten in before the big wave, you guys, and they've got a high quality product with strict standards. They're completely transparent about the testing of all their products and how good they are, and they can trace back any product to a batch, and they know where in the farm that was growing. They are completely transparent about income claims. You can take a free tour, you guys, of our website. Go to the person who invited you here and make sure you share this so you can get into a drawing for a free product. You're going to get a free sample if your name is drawn, and the way you get into the drawing is you share this and you hashtag the name of the person who invited you. I so encourage you to do that. What is it going to hurt you to try something for free, right? So we're going to try the product, right? And then you're going to decide, oh my gosh, I've got to have this. Or maybe you're going to decide to do what I'm doing and share this with people all over the world so that they can have the same benefits that we're all having. And along the way, we're going to get compensated by the company for that word of mouth advertising. And you guys, this is the best compensation plan I've ever seen. Everybody says that, but this is true. My husband and I have built businesses globally and made millions and millions of dollars, and we're super happy and grateful to do it. And I have made more money doing less work with this company than any other company that I've been involved with. So I'm super grateful for such an amazing compensation plan. Okay, so you got to go check that out. You got to go take that free tour. It costs you nothing. And then if you buy a product and you try it out, you've got a 60-day money back, no questions asked, empty bottle guarantee. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? This is how confident that we are that you are going to feel something. You're going to notice something, and you're going to want to keep buying the product and being a customer. And then if you decide to do the business, of course, you're going to be a product of the product. You're going to share this with your friends, just like we're sharing with our friends. But that's not for everybody. So whatever you want to do is okay. And here's the cool thing, you guys. We have a way to help you. If you don't have the money to get started, when you get in there and look and you go, oh, I can't do that. I can't afford $20 to become an affiliate. And I can't afford, to buy one of these big packages, 4 to 12 products and get them for $50 instead of $69. I want to mention to you that those other products I was buying were like between $150 and $200 for half as much, and they were diluted. So our pricing is phenomenal, but it's still tough for some people, right? Well, you know what? You can pre-sell it. You can pre-sell it. We'll help you. We'll lock arms, and we'll have a little sales party, a little call party, and we'll call up friends, or maybe some of your friends, when you share this video, you can ask them if they'd be willing to try that 60-day money-back guarantee and help you out and buy a bottle. And through that sales process, they're going to send you money through Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, give you cash or check. You can order your product and deliver to them. And you guys, this is so easy. It's so easy. I've seen so many people do this, to join forces, kind of put a little team of friends together, and they work together and they make it a fun thing that they get together in somebody's house, and they have a little sales party. And we can do that, and we can help people reactivate the system in their body. They don't have to be suffering. They can have great sleep. You guys, my whole entire life, you want to know why I'm so pumped up and excited? Because my whole life, I never slept more than 4 hours, and I woke up every hour. And now I sleep 8 hours, and I don't even wake up to go pee in the middle of the night. For real. For real, I sleep great, and I dream in color. I dream in color. You guys, there's no excuses to not try this. It's risk-free. It's affordable. It works great, and you're not alone. There are friends. We are here to help you because we really want to make a difference. I just saw Leslie say, when I take my oil, it helps me be a better mom. Oh, that makes me want to cry, and I'm so less stressed. Oh, that's so sweet. Our kids deserve the best version of ourselves. Our spouses deserve the best version of ourselves. And if you want to know how you can be the best version of yourself, just give it a try and see what it does for you. And then share your story, because there are people out there who are feeling just like you. Maybe you need an extra $500 a month. Maybe you need an extra $500 a week. I don't know. But I can tell you this, we have experienced people here who know how to work together as a team. You will be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And if all you're looking for is improved health, we want to do that too, because that's the whole reason we're in business, is because we want to serve. We want to help people to experience a better life. I had a son that was born with autism, and thank God we were able to reverse his autism. But you know what? I still have a lot of connections with people. They say, my autistic child won't put this under their tongue. Don't worry about it. Buy the natural and put it in their belly button. There's receptor sites there, and it's transdermal, you guys. It will penetrate the skin, and they'll be able to get the benefit of it that way. Have you thought of that? So no excuses, as I saw somebody say earlier. You guys, we're on fire here. Go take the free tour. Get with a person that invited you. Get your questions asked. Get your free tour. Get your product and get in the drawing for a free sample. Make sure you share and hashtag the person that invited you. You guys, go win. God bless. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Hey, happy Hemp Day, guys. It is Tuesday, right? Tuesday, yeah. And
every day is Hemp Day.
We are in Miami. We are walking to a restaurant. And I thought an appropriate topic today would be how increasing your network can improve your net worth. And so we've been walking about, going from place to place, meeting people, and I'm gonna find out where we're sitting, I guess. Or you'll come and get me?
Yeah.
You'll come and get me. Michael will come and get me so I can finish. I gotta sit somewhere in the shade. It's super hot here. First we went to the blockchain center and we met some cool crypto people, right? And then we went to, hey Caleb, we went to Red Bull and met with the head of marketing for Red Bull. And so, you know, he's super connected to all these super sports. It is hot. It's super hot, Kenny. Extreme sports folks, right? Hey Scott, we're in your neighborhood, so to speak. And I was just thinking, as we're meeting with these different crypto lawyers and extreme sports guys and big corporate guys and women, amazing women lawyers and so forth, that one of the things that we had to increase our network, the people that we knew, our relationship, before we increased our net worth, because there was a direct correlation to the people that we hang out with and do business with and those kinds of things. So I'm going to show you something that's really fascinating to me here is the artwork. There's like this amazing artwork all over the walls. And let's see if I can turn the camera around. Do you see that, guys? That's pretty amazing, right? Incredible. And it goes all down the... I hope you can see it as well as I can. Hey! Yeah, amazing. Human beings. So, you know, how do you decide who you want to network with? It doesn't have to be the people that make all the money, but people, everyone you meet knows somebody you don't know. I have met people who literally, I've met a homeless person who came to work for us when we had our carnival, who introduced me, like their dad was this huge, amazing person who had done like historically phenomenal things. Okay, I'm not going to name their names because I don't have their permission to talk about them, but you just don't know. You don't know. And so you look at every person as valuable, that they have something, they've crossed your path for a reason, right? Everyone crosses paths. I think of them all as divine appointments. And how can I bring value to them? We talked about that the other day. And then in turn, it's natural that they karmically that then people want to pay that back to you. Maybe not directly from them, but in the whole scheme of things, it comes back to you. So how has your network helped your net worth? Have you thought about that? Even if you're meeting friends of friends of friends, if you build rapport, if you build a relationship, if you make a personal connection, that might be the person that can help you connect. Again, they, like, let's say they're connected to 1,000 to 10,000 people. Like my friend Jeannie is personal friends with Tim Draper. So like and I love Jeannie and I love Tim Draper for different reasons, but I'm literally one step away from someone that I really wanted to know. Like do you ever create in your vision board, in your dreams, like the people you want to meet, the people you want to have relationships with for whatever reason? You know, maybe it's just, I used to want to be interviewed by Oprah. That was one of my big things. I was going to be interviewed by Oprah. I've since, you know, decided that's not important to me. That's not on my vision board. But one that I manifested was I really wanted to meet Sharon Lechter. She co-authored Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in fact, I did meet her. And through her, I met a lot of incredible people who have also, Michael's bringing me cold water because it's super hot out here. Like, I don't know if you can see me sweating.
It's the least I can do. She's awesome, isn't she?
So we were talking about your network.
It's worth your net worth, I bet.
Increasing your net worth, yeah. Oh, yeah. So I was telling him about how I set an intention, and I met Sharon Lechter within like 48 hours of setting that intention. And you just got to know, and it wasn't about like what I was going to get from her. I genuinely wanted to meet her and be around her energy because I was so impressed. I was like, there's things I can learn from her.
She's going to let us look at the real manuscript for Outwitting the Devil, guys. What was in the book that nobody knows about.
That they didn't publish.
It's still locked up. She has access to that, so we can't wait to get that info. We'll share that with you once we do.
Well,
maybe.
If we're allowed to.
Yeah, if she gives us permission.
Anyway, I was telling him we just met the head of marketing for, what was
Red Bull.
Red Bull, yeah. I don't remember his name.
Dang, awesome guy.
Mace?
Something like that.
It's a different name.
We'll have to look it up.
People in the crypto space, like old school crypto people that got started in the very, very beginning, started this blockchain center. They actually weren't present, but some of the people that worked with them were present and gave us a tour. It was pretty cool, pretty amazing. And then the conversation that we had around the corporation versus the republic and the two different constitutions, and you know, you get so much education from being around other people. I learned so much from being at Joby's birthday party and talking with the attorneys there that help everybody get their second
their dual citizenship.
Dual citizenship.
Yeah, if you guys haven't got your dual citizenship, think about that. You know, think about. I mean, there's a lot of congressmen that have written books about how to
why you need
that and why it, you know, they passed that, why they put that through the House, and you know, it's, you know, for us out here as citizens and Republicans of our nation.
And it's not that you have to be a wealthy person. Maybe the value that you bring to people that you're meeting is that you really listen and pay attention. I remember Frankie Doty told me that the reason he really connected to me the first time we met was at a big dinner. It was an Epics event, and Joby was there, Paul Kirchhoff was there, there was a bunch of people there. And Frankie said that we stood out because I sat next to him and I paid attention to the things he was eating. We were eating family style, and I made sure that he got seconds or thirds of the things he liked before, like when people would say, does anybody else want some more of this before I eat the last one? I'd say, oh, Frankie wants it. And I didn't even think about it. It was second nature to me, but he said that stood out to him, that I cared about what he liked. And so I realized that, you know, all you have to do is be the best version of yourself. You don't have to be something that you're not. Just be who you are. And
can I talk about that? This
can you hold this? My arm is
the
burning.
Philosophy of it is this, you know, who am I? Who do I want to surround myself with, right? So why wait? Why not right now? Not now, but right now. Write that out and then start surrounding yourself by those people. If you can't be there in person, go to Facebook and join a group. Look for groups that are people like what you want to be at, like right now. It may take a week, it may take a month, but surround yourself right now with those people, right? Yep. That you want to associate with. If you're a surfboarder, go get in the surfboarding group. If you love animals and pets and you're like, find pet, and you'll get in Labradoodles Are Us, Facebook, whatever it is, surround yourself with those people. Get out and network And the synergy of being around those people that you most want to be around magnifies, and you grow. I grow to my fullest height then, because that's what I'm looking for, that nourishment, that like Michelle said, somebody paying attention to the details, because we're like-minded and we do that for each other. And you know what that does? And synergy, the synergistic effect of living a full life. So whatever that is, then of course.
I just asked Stephanie, how did they meet the Mays and from Red Bull, and she said that she was sitting next to him on the plane going somewhere on a commercial flight, and she was like, this guy's amazing, he does all these amazing things. Joey has to meet him. So she went and had Joby trade seats.
Let's walk.
That was rude.
No, keep going.
She had Joby trade seats with her, and he sat next to the guy. By the time they got off the plane, they had been invited to their house, and they went and stayed at their house for a few days and became good friends. So, you know, you never know where those opportunities are going to arise, but you got to seize them, you got to recognize them and take them when they come. And don't be afraid, don't hold back.
Let's ask Stephanie and Joby to share their zone 1 of networking, right? Much better in here. See why I brought you in, babe?
Oh, no, I know.
And our food's here too.
And it says we're muted.
We are. They, you know, we won't be able to hear them, but they can hear us. So.
Okay. You said you were going to ask him a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe we can ask Joby. Can we ask Joby a question? We're live here. Facebook on Hemp Halftime. And we're talking about your network is worth your net worth, and just getting out there, seeing friends, making new friends. What's it do for your life, your business, your soul? Baby Liberty. How does that help your net worth now? You do that, and what? And how do you monetize on that?
Well, just find out what everybody wants and provide it. The more problems we solve, the more money you make. So focus on solving the big problems and making big money. If you don't help anybody, you're not going to make anything. That's not worth anything if you're not helping people.
So basically, you're helping enough people get what they want and reaching their goals, and you automatically is.
That's what's important about being an entrepreneur. Because most businesses will only pay you just enough so you won't quit, and you work just fairly hard enough so they won't fire you. So instead of that, pay what you're worth, not what your job is worth.
So in other words, guys, probably want to get out of your comfort zone. If you're not feeling a little pain, you're probably not growing. I had growing pains growing up. I'm tall, but get yourself a little uncomfortable and go out and change your world. Change your world and your family's world, and get into zone 1. What have you done in the last 24 to 72 hours to change somebody else's life? You'll automatically change your life, guys. Anything else you want to close out on?
No, we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
See you tomorrow, same half time. Have a good day. God bless.
Hey everybody, Michelle Stevens here. I wanted to share with you a story. I've been asked by a beautiful woman that I just met in Acapulco by the name of Lynn Franks to share my story. And so I'm going to do that here in a few minutes. I'm going to give everybody a chance to kind of catch on that it's going on. What I want to share with you is how we reversed autism in one of our children. And I know this is a touchy subject for people, and I don't expect anybody, hey Cynthia, I don't expect anybody to necessarily choose to do what we did. I don't expect you to think that I have some kind of answer that the rest of the world doesn't have. I'm just going to share the process in parts. Tonight's going to be part 1. I'm going to share this process with you. I guarantee I'm going to get emotional. And And I'm not going to tell you the real name of my child because he no longer has autism and doesn't deal with it, and would prefer that his friends and colleagues and so forth not view him that way. But so for the sake of the story, I'm just going to call him John. Don't have a child named John, but I'm going to call him John. I'm the mom of 10, and I was very blessed. The Lord led me to become a special education teacher. I was a non-traditional student. Right after high school, I attempted college. Didn't really fit where I was at in my life at that time, so I became a mom and a wife, and I gave birth at home. I'm a home birth mom. I'm a non-vax mom. I gave birth to a beautiful little boy, and the moment that he was born, he went rigid in my arms, and I knew something wasn't quite right because I'd had children before, and I knew how babies like to sort of mold to mom's body, and everything seemed to be a challenge from the beginning. I will share with you that I had dealt with a couple of years of infertility trying to get pregnant with him, and finally, after much fasting, I fasted and prayed for about 2 years, and the night he was conceived, I had actually had a visitation from him, and he told me he was ready to come, and he told me what his name would be, and he was conceived, and it was a very difficult pregnancy. I had what's called hyperemesis, so I was literally from probably about week 2 or 3, I was vomiting 24/7. Everything made me sick. The smell of fresh air made me sick. I could be on one end of the house and someone turn on the faucet, and the other end of the house, and I smell the water, and it would make me sick. It was really, really difficult, and I pretty much would just lay on the floor next to the toilet. I spent most of my time either in bed or laying next to the toilet because I just knew that's where I was going to end up anyway. So it was exhausting. It was difficult. I had a midwife. I followed the rules in Arkansas, was that I had to be seen by a physician, an OBGYN. A couple of times. I had an amazing midwife. In fact, I want to thank Stephanie Sims for, I think I was her first client by herself once she was done with her apprenticeship. I had a great support system through my church. My husband was very supportive. My parents were very supportive, especially my stepmother, who's no longer with us. She was great in watching the older kids. So I had a difficult pregnancy. He was born at home. I had a slight shoulder dystocia, so he got a little bit stuck, and came into the world. And like I said, when my midwife put him into my arms, he was very rigid and not very cuddly. And I didn't know what that meant. I was a special education student, and at that time there wasn't a lot known about autism. In fact, autism was just kind of briefly mentioned in class, but there was no real, there wasn't any special degree in it or anything like that. In fact, at that time there was about 1 in 100,000 children were diagnosed with autism. Today it's anywhere, depending on who you ask, 1 in 60 to 1 in 6. So the rate of autism has grown exponentially over the last 25 or so years. And so there I was. I had this beautiful baby, and I breastfed my son. I ate very healthy, and I, had normal kinds of exercise and so forth. I did not vaccinate him. I didn't believe in the concept that vaccination equaled immunization. Again, I'm not judging you if you do. I'm just telling you where I was at, and this is what the Spirit had led me to do. So I think that each parent has to pray about their child, and I believe the Lord will guide you. And if the Lord guides you to vaccinate your child, then God bless you in that and bless them in that. But I felt really impressed not to vaccinate my son or any of my other children. So he had some odd behaviors. In fact, as he got older, as he was aging, he wasn't developing language like most children. He was extremely affectionate and very loving. I want to say hi to everybody coming on. I see quite a few people jumping on, and I appreciate your time, and I want you to know I value it very much. He was very affectionate and sweet. I thought maybe he was deaf. I had been deaf when I was young, and he didn't respond normally to certain stimulus. Like if there was a loud bang, he didn't jump. It was like it didn't happen. And I tried doing some tests. He was probably about 2 years old, sitting on the floor in the kitchen. And I came up behind him and I banged some pots and pans together, and he didn't respond at all. And then I went across the room and I whispered, hey John, do you want some ice cream? Because he loved ice cream. And he turned around and he went, huh? And so I thought, well, that's weird. He can hear me whisper ice cream, but he doesn't hear me bang pots and pans behind his head. I went and had him tested to see if he was deaf, and they said he had great hearing as far as they could tell, because he was quite young, and as I said, he was nonverbal. I thought maybe he was just a little bit delayed because he had older sisters and they waited on him hand and foot, and he didn't really need to talk, so I thought maybe that's why he wasn't talking. He was about 3 years old and he was in preschool, and we had regular parent-teacher conferences. By this time, I had my degree in special education. I'd actually gotten like a double major and a minor because they didn't have an early childhood special education degree at that time. So I had to go that route to fill what I felt was my calling. And he was in a school not that I taught at. And the preschool teacher, we met regularly, and she was super sweet and kind and patient. She was a beautiful person, and her assistant was also just a beautiful lady. And at one point they called me in. The teachers had just gone to a special training on the autism spectrum. And she called me in, and my husband at the time, and she very gently shared with me that she believed that my son had Asperger's autism. Sorry. Asperger's autism. I didn't really want to think that could be true, but something inside of me told me to just listen and not to reject it out of hand, because she was so loving and kind, and she certainly wasn't trying to judge my child. And so I listened to her, and as much as everything inside of me told me that I didn't want it to be true, I knew there was something to what she was saying. So we made an appointment and had our son evaluated. And I remember my husband saying, if John has autism, then I have autism, because he's literally exactly like me. And I thought, yeah, you probably do, but I didn't say that out loud. And so we took him and we had him evaluated. And at the end of the evaluation, the specialist we were seeing said, yes, he definitely met 13 of the criteria. And so now the plan in my mind was, okay, so what do we do to facilitate him learning and having a great life? And she and specialist at Children's Hospital in Little Rock basically told me and my husband that we should prepare for the fact that he would never have a normal life. That we should consider that at some point we'd probably have to institutionalize him. And he was never going to go to college, and he was going to never have a normal life. And so I said to those people that the one thing that I had that they didn't have with all their education was that I know the Lord. And that my Heavenly Father heard and answered prayers. And that we would not speak death on my son, that we would speak life on him, and that they were never, ever to refer to him again as a label. And so from that time forward, I dealt with the school. He had a first grade teacher. I came for a parent-teacher. I held him back into preschool for an extra year. I remember coming to pick him up after school one day. He was super excited because he had never made friends. Everybody that was a teenager and an adult loved him. They called him Cowboy John, and they would wave to him and holler. They just loved him. They loved him. He always wore a cowboy hat and cowboy boots and cowboy vest. And you know how autistic kids can be. He only would wear a certain kind of shirt, and he would only wear shorts that came down to his knees, and he wore these knee-high socks, and they had to be a certain brand of socks. It was some brand Walmart had that had a picture of a duck on them. So he called them duck socks, and Walmart quit carrying that brand, and it was like a major challenge, right? Because they didn't have that brand anymore, and he liked the way they felt. And every time he'd outgrow his clothes, he'd be upset, especially his shoes, his cowboy boots, because then he would have to wear new ones, and they didn't feel right, and he would cry. I remember taking him to school one day, and the teacher saying, it's winter time, and you have to dress him appropriately for the weather. And he had on his hat, and he had on a winter coat. He had on a scoop neck cotton t-shirt, and the kind that came down where he liked the arms and felt the way he liked it to feel. And he had on his shorts that came to the top of his knees, and he had on his duck socks, and he had on his cowboy boots. There was only this much skin that showed on his knees, and the teachers told me he wasn't dressed appropriately. And so I tried and tried to get him dressed the way they wanted him dressed. He hated pants. And so I finally, one morning, I spent like 2 hours, and he was crying and screaming, and he was miserable, and I was miserable. So I put his clothes, I put his pants in a Walmart bag, and I brought them to school, and I said, here, if you can get them on him, God bless you, but I can't. And I'm not going to torture him anymore over freaking pants. So when I came to pick him up that day, they gave me the bag back, and they said that he was dressed fine. He didn't have to wear pants. I came to school to pick him up another day, and he was super excited. He wanted me to meet his friend. He said, Mom, I have a friend. And it was a really big deal to him. He wanted a friend really badly, and he never had any that were his age. And we walked outside. He took me by the hand, and he took me over this little boy who was playing by himself. And he said, Mommy, this is my friend. And he told me the little boy's name. And the little boy looked up. And he said, oh, God, that's that weird kid. The little boy he wasn't trying to be mean. He's just being a little boy. And my son was weird.
My son didn't hear him say that, thank goodness. He was just super excited and happy that I met his friend. So, I came to school when he was in the first grade for a parent-teacher conference, and I had shared with his teacher how he learned. I had figured out some things about how my son was able to learn, and I taught him the way he learned, just like I did my special ed students in my classroom. And I told her, and I came for parent-teacher conference, and she had not incorporated any of the things I had shared with her. As my son and I were walking across the parking lot to go to the conference, we passed these temporary metal buildings, and it's where the special ed classes were held. And my son pointed to his classroom, his first grade classroom across the parking lot. He goes, "Mommy," and he was 6 years old, 7 years old at the time. He said, "Mommy, that's where I'm dumb, and this is where I'm smart." I didn't show him any emotion at the time, but I was crushed. And I met with his teacher, I met with his special ed teacher, and then I met with his first grade teacher. And I realized why he felt like he was dumb, because all she could do was compare him to all the other kids and say how he lacked and how he failed in comparison to them. And she didn't give any credit to the things I had told her that I knew worked for him. So I stayed very calm, and I went home, and I made an appointment with the principal and the special ed supervisor and the teacher, and I called everybody together, and I told them very calmly when we met that I am a special education teacher and I know the laws. And I don't want to have to play this game with you guys, but I'm going to, because I have to advocate for my son, just like I advocate for everybody else's children all day long and who are my students. I was going to advocate for my son. And it didn't matter what I said. They would not comply with the laws. They would not comply with the things he needed. So I went to my own special ed supervisor in my school district, and I said, "Here's my challenge. Can I count on your support?" And she said, "Absolutely, and I'll let you handpick his teachers." And so I picked the teachers I knew were very well educated in autism, or were at least willing to learn, and handpicked his teachers all through grade school. And they were amazing, incredible women who loved my son, who worked with me instead of against me. So along with educational intervention, and you guys, you know, I was educated. I knew the laws. I had to do all the paperwork myself. I knew that game. I don't know how parents who don't know all of that make it through the system. It's astounding to me, those of you who advocate so strongly for your kids, and you have to go out there and you have to study. You have to learn what tools are on your side and use those tools. I want to tell you that I have so much respect for what it takes to do that. So I did that for my kiddo, just like I did for all my students. And some of the administrators were great, and some of the teachers were great, and some of them sucked. Some of them wanted to give special ed kids a highlight magazine and stick them in a corner of the room, and some of them were willing to go the extra mile. And so, you know, it's an individual. It's not the public school system as a whole. It's the individuals. And Anyway, we were really blessed and fortunate. The other thing that we did besides learning from John, I got to be careful I use a fake name for him. He taught me how to teach him. The other thing that I started doing very early on was researching nutritional, natural ways, whether it was sound therapy, nutritional therapy, all of these kinds of things. My mom's mom is Native American. I had grown up being taught by my mother and my uncles and my grandma that everything in nature, every poison in nature has an antidote that grows nearby. I had a firm testimony that Heavenly Father wants the very best for us, and that He's provided through plants of the earth ways to feed our bodies to get the very best results. I also know that we're not all meant to be perfect. Sometimes we're challenged. And so my goal was to do everything that I could do within my abilities, and I researched everything you can imagine: food, diets, nutritional supplementation, oils, kinesiology, just name it. And I was open and receptive, but I'm an intelligent being, and I'm very analytical. I'm bottom line personality. But I'm also what a lot of people like to call woo-woo. I'm really into the spiritual side of things. So what I was looking for was empirical evidence. I would read the National Institute of Health studies. I want to see actual data. Testimonies are great, but bottom line is that you can have a placebo effect with anything for a good 6 months, because our minds are very powerful. So I was researching, and I came across this amazing herb called the red reishi mushroom. It's also known as Ganoderma. But you guys, I was a mom of, by that time, 4, and my husband and I both worked, and there was no way. One bottle of capsules of this mushroom cost $350 to $500. That was for a normal, healthy person's month supply. There was no way I was going to be able to afford that. So I prayed, which was my go-to thing. I prayed and I asked the Lord to provide me some kind of an answer. And lo and behold, when my son was 2, I came across my midwife with my 4th child had given me some products based in glyconutritionals, glycoscience, glycobiology, if you will. They are essential sugars or essential carbohydrates, like you have essential vitamins and minerals. And I put him on a regimen from that company. And 2 years into it, at the age of 4, I still wasn't seeing a major change. I contacted some of the scientists who had isolated these carbohydrates and figured out, it's like, what is it about aloe vera that gives it its medicinal quality, and it's a carbohydrate. So I contacted them. They told me that Dr. Reg McDaniel actually told me how to tweak his supplementation. I did that. And at that same time, so we're doing educational intervention, we're doing nutritional intervention. We followed a very healthy, organic, everything I made from scratch. I even made my own pancake syrup. I mean, everything was from scratch. Everything was whole food. Everything was as close to nature as possible. I tried gluten-free. It didn't make a difference for my son. Again, I didn't vaccinate. I did a lot of stimulation because I was a teacher. I knew, like, to read out loud to him. And at the age of 7, he couldn't say, like, he couldn't spell ADD. He would have to say the ABCs, and when he would get to the letter, he would say the letter, and then he'd have to start the ABCs all over again. So the third component was I found a doctor who practiced kinesiology, and he worked on my son twice. The second time he worked on him, I came home And my son, he was 7, wanted to read to me. And typically reading a book to me was him looking at the pictures and making up a story. He actually couldn't read the words. And he said he wanted to read a book. I said, okay. So he went and got his little book. He sat in my lap. And he literally, you guys, for the first time ever, read every word in the book. Now, maybe he had it all memorized, but the day before he couldn't do it. And that day, after that second session, he could. So educational intervention, nutritional supplementation, and the supplementation was really key on detoxing him of heavy metals. And then the kinesiology, getting everything, all of his neurological network firing and working together. And this belief, the fourth thing, and probably the most important thing, was that I never spoke death on my son. I never said he's autistic. I never said he can't learn. I never called him learning disabled. In his IEP conferences, other people would say that. And in my mind, I would say, cancel, cancel. And I would always picture him perfectly healthy and normal. And I would always feel great joy and gratitude for that. And I believe that that was a key component, and still is a key component, to the fact that he is symptom-free today. Also, detoxing heavy metals is critically important. And so some of you are saying, well, you didn't vaccinate him, so how did he get this heavy metal poisoning? And I'm going to tell you, I figured it out. It came to me by way of inspiration last summer, and I talked to an endodontist, and she validated that my theory is correct. And I just have to tell you, the Holy Spirit validated it's correct. I had a lot of fillings when I was a kid, and amalgam fillings. The older fillings from 50 years ago had a lot more mercury than today. And because I was so sick all the time, and I had heavy metal, I had hyperemesis, the only thing that kind of helped me deal with my nausea was I would get that crushed ice, like from Sonic, and I would chew ice all the time. So what would happen is, as I'm chewing the ice, my amalgam fillings are expanding and contracting at a different rate than my tooth enamel. And as those two things are happening, it's creating a lot of friction. And from that friction, I was releasing mercury. The second thing that happened was both my midwife, bless her heart, she didn't know any better, and my doctor told me I had like the worst kind of heartburn, the kind of heartburn that made my vomiting worse. And they told me it was safe to take Tums, and I chewed Tums, and Tums has aluminum. So my son, I poisoned my baby in utero with mercury and aluminum. Of course, not on purpose. And of course, neither my doctor nor my midwife even had it. They would never have suggested those, it happened, okay? It happened. And so how do I get those heavy metals out of his system? And I utilized a product. If I had reishi mushroom, which now I can find I have a great quality he uses now from a company called Organo. So I became a distributor of Organo. So my son uses those products. But when he was younger, we used products called Manatech. And we detoxed him. We used educational intervention. We used kinesiology. And we used prayer and faith. And today, my son is autistic free. He stopped having symptoms around junior high. And he's now in college. He's on the dean's list. He has great friends all through high school, had amazing friends. He's such a good judge of character, and he surrounds himself with such good quality people. And I love his friends. He definitely knows he's a son of God, and he's a person of gratitude, and he's a person of humility and faith. and he cares about bringing good into the world and bringing joy to other people. So he's a really good boy. He's a man, but he's a good boy for me. And I'm so grateful for the things that we've gone through, that we've learned, and I think it's all for a purpose. So I don't know if these things will help you. I don't know if maybe they frustrate you because you've tried those things and they didn't help your child. I don't think everybody's meant to be healed. I think there's lessons for the person suffering and the parent that is suffering with their child. I don't know, I'm not God. I don't know his plans, but I know he loves us. And I know it's not for nothing. And I know that whatever the reason is for whatever our trials are, that we can take those trials and we can transmutate them and we can make them into beautiful blessings for the world. A good friend of mine, Donatelle, says, when life gives you manure, with the Lord's help, you can turn it into a beautiful garden. And I think that's very true. That's definitely been my experience. I'm going to continue to talk about what we've done in more detail, how things have turned around for my son. And I just pray that maybe there's somebody out there listening who was looking for hope and can find it. I'll share with you other ways that friends of mine have done things that have helped their children. And I just want to start the conversation. I'm not looking to have a debate with anybody. I'm not going to argue anything. I'm not going to argue about vaccination. I'll say again, you pray about it. And if you feel like that's what's right for your child, then you should absolutely vaccinate your child. If you believe your child being in public school is the right place, absolutely you should do it. I'm a homeschool mom. My son that had autism went to public school. I have prayed about each one of my children about vaccination. I've prayed about each one of them about their education. I've prayed about each one of them every step of the way. And I did not do the same thing for all of my kids all the way through, because the Lord directed me for each one individually. And I want you to know that I am not judging you for what you have been led to do for your child. You do what's best for your kiddo. You're their advocate. You're their everything, right? You're the one that, if you're a mom and you adopted that baby, they were brought to you through some divine network of things. Some miracle happened and you got that baby. I've adopted older kids. I'm a mom of 10. I gave birth to 6. I've adopted 4. I love all my children and I treat all of them as individuals. And just please, please, please hear when I say, I'm not saying what I did will help your child, but it might help somebody. It might give you hope to keep going when everything's against you. I believe that when we ask, that answers come. And if you stay open and receptive to those answers and you just keep plugging away and working at it, you'll have some quality of life that you wouldn't have had if you hadn't done that work, and that it's worth it. I just want you to know it's worth it and not to give up hope. So anyway, that's part 1 of our story of reversing autism. I'm really grateful for your time and attention, incredibly grateful. I want you to know that even though I don't know some of you, I love you. I love you so much. You are my brothers and my sisters. And we're here on this planet together, and together